Alright, welcome back to Black Butler, Anime Review, episode number 28. We are here reviewing the penultimate episode of Season 5 Emerald Witch arc, which is the 12th episode of the arc, which also is the 69th episode of the series. Here's Butler calling. This episode adapted from pretty much the entirety of chapters 105, 106, and the first 15 pages of chapter 107. Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that, because I thought initially it was 2, and I look at the next chapter, like, okay, and I look at, oh, okay. Yeah, first 15 pages. So, in this episode, we have where we start off with the Grim Reapers. Yes. Well, we have Sasha and her, let's just say her partner, where they're documenting other Germans who were killed off in the previous couple episodes. And then all of a sudden, Grell and William show up in this. Yes, first time they've been seen since the Luxury Liner arc movie. Yeah, first time anime-wise, these two have been seen in 8 years. Because the last thing they were seen was in the film, basically Book of Atlantic movie, which is adaptation of the Luxury arc, which for some reason the anime has chosen not to finish adapting the arc for some weird reason. Yes, because there's characters appeared like in the last chapter that they skipped. Not sure why, but they did. And those characters pop up later on this episode. It's great to see William and Grell again. Grell gets smacked with William's death scythe. And, yeah, great reintroduction to them. In the case of William, from what I read, he does not return after this at all. This was his most recent appearance in the manga. Grell does return after this. She does. And mention about the bizarre dolls. Basically, they're here referencing the Luxury Liner arc. Those are anybody who've forgotten the arc. Yeah, pretty much that's what they're referencing here with this. And then right after this particular scene, then we have Diedrich with Cecile's group arriving at his manor. Wolfham, Sully's butler, he gets treated for his injuries. Sully, of course, well, she gets out of the outfit she was wearing, and of course Cecile gets a different outfit, wearing the dress for 2 straight episodes. He's allowed to finally wear normal clothes, not dress like a girl. So then of course they have a little cleaning thing, like basically clean themselves up. And of course Wilhelm basically mentions that, why'd you save me? Yes, basically Sebastian. Well, the reason why, because Cecile basically told him to, because he's basically the butler. And the main reason why that he did it, because, well, he needed somebody to keep an eye of Sully, because basically she, well, he probably thought basically she could still be useful to him as her butler. And she fully accepts his apology of what happened. And that's that with that one. And then we have a scene here that is here to set up the very next story arc. Well, it's to set up the ending of the very next story arc. We have Cecile and Diedrich discussing about how he last saw the Undertaker after he made a visit to France for some reason. And he mentioned about somebody called the Other Earl Phantom Hive. Some of you might be thinking, what is that? That is set up for the ending of the very next arc of the series, which is basically Blue Knight. Yeah, wasn't Blue. It's not that here. Actually, it's not set for. Not Blue Colt. Okay, it's actually set up for... I kid you not, it's set up for Blue Memory. That's 2 arcs after the next one. Because the next one has nothing to do with that at all. No, it's a completely different arc. I'm surprised we haven't heard an adaptation of this one yet. Oh, by the way, Blue Cult, that's next arc. It's 22 chapters, which is, if you're curious though, it is pretty much the same length as this arc. Yeah, same exact length. The arc that comes out in Blue Memory, that is like 20. Blue Revenge is the current arc of the series, which has been going on since chapter 150. Yes, this arc is still ongoing. It is currently the longest arc of the whole series. At if I remember correctly, I believe that yeah. So currently the arc is going since chapter 2. The most recent chapter was 216. That's the most recent arc chapter of this arc. Yes. Of the series. So that means this arc is going on for over 50 chapters. Yeah, this arc is going officially now for, oh my gosh, 6 freaking years, this arc. Yeah. And the only reason why it's taking so long is because of, well, it's a monthly manga, and also because basically there was a couple times throughout this series where the writer decided, actually the writer once did this, where it took a 10-month hiatus from the series. But there's that. So then, of course, basically, while discussing this, then I think it's Diedrich's Butler, who by the way is an old friend of Tyler, basically the Japanese Butler that the other Butler that Cecile has, where basically he's an old friend of his because he speaks in German. So then Sully, of course, she is eating, not behaving like an actual lady, so they have to have Sebastian teach her, which he will do that, by the way, and probably get proper. And of course, then they go on the train in disguise, where Wolfram has his hair black with a mustache and black sideburns. Sully is in a blonde wig. Well, I'd say blonde wig because their hair is raven black. So, and then they go on the train. They say goodbye to Diedrich, and if you're really curious about Diedrich himself, does he return in the series? After this, after what happens here? Well, if you're really curious, no, he does not return now. Well, he actually does after this arc of after he's seen leaving the train at the train station. That's the last time he's ever seen. He is not seen again after this at all. That was, like in the case of William, his most recent appearance. So then, of course, they're on a boat. They arrive in England, and of course, basically, Sully and Wolfram basically speaking German. Sebastian recommends to speak English. Sully's English is actually pretty good. Wolfram he barely can speak a word of English. So that usually happens with immigrants who come from their country. So, though of course their passage was done legally because basically this is done with the permission of the Queen. So I'm sure basically when it comes to come from Germany to England, this was basically done legally because the Queen wanted it. So then they decide how they get new clothes for the two of them. And then they go to the shop, this tailor shop in this particular episode. Yes, run by Mrs. Hoskins, Nina Hopkins. And they also mention about in this particular thing. They also mentioned that will be a setup for the very next arc of the series for this scene here. Yes. Now, if you're curious about Hopkins, I believe, if I remember correctly, this character is loosely named after, actually it was Hoskins, I think it was. Yes, so you have Nina and her partner here, which, here's the thing when it comes to her. Her actual first appearance in the series is in a chapter that was never adapted for the anime. You're like, what? Yes, this is 100% completely true. For some weird reason, I do not know why in the world this had to happen for, but they skipped the final chapter of the circus arc. That was the arc adapted for season 3 of the show. Yes. Yeah. For some weird reason, like I said, do not know the reason for this, they skipped the final chapter. It's not the first time that this... Oh, no. Yeah. This series has sort of a minor reputation with this, where they would skip chapters for arcs. Oh, yeah. Those of you curious, like, wait, they have skipped chapters before? Phantom Murders, this one, as far as I can tell, this did adapt the whole thing. Luxury Liner is another one, basically, where they did not fully adapt the whole arc. If you're curious about Book Atlantic movie, that was the movie that came out back in 2017. And if you're really curious, like, how far did the movie adapt to? The movie adapted to the penultimate chapter of this whole arc. They adapted almost the entire thing for this one movie. An arc that was 16 chapters, and they skipped the final chapter. Some of you are like, why in the world would they do that for? I have honestly no idea why. This will not be the first time. Oh no. Now, believe it or not, the first time now, okay, as of currently, because I'm going to wrap it up next episode. So, the opening arc, which is 5 chapters, was this arc fully adapted for the anime? Started chapter 1, ended with chapter 5. If you're really curious about this, they actually did skip a chapter. And you're thinking, what did they skip? They skipped chapter 5. Yep, that was the first chapter they ever skipped in the series. And that was from the opening story arc of the series. Yes, as for the reason for this, don't know. Red Butler, which was the very next arc of the series, started chapter 6, ended with chapter 14. Was this fully adapted? Okay, so the answer is no. It was not. Yes, for some weird reason, Not sure why they did this for. Yeah, they decided to, for the first season of the show, it's like they started out the manga and then they just stopped. For how long, you might ask? Okay, so the last chapter that was adapted for the anime was basically episode 6. They took a break from the manga for about 7 episodes. Yeah, 7. Finally resumed the Indian Butler arc. Now, you might be curious this one. Did this finish adapting the arc? No! This is another one. For some weird reason, this is another one where they just didn't finish adapting it. Book of Circus. They skipped the last chapter. Phantom Hide Murders. This one, they did finish adapting this arc. Yes, this one was the first arc of the whole series to get a full adaptation. Luxury Liner. They skipped the final chapter. Public School arc. Yeah, this one definitely did because basically I've recently viewed it. And this arc. Oh yes. So, out of all the arcs for this series, only, get this, only 3 of whom have had a full adaptation, when adapted from start to finish. For some weird reason, they didn't adapt the final chapter. As far as I can tell, I do not know the reason for this. I was hoping whenever they brought this series back, that they would, how about, how should I put this? That they would have like an episode or two where they would just adapt these final chapters. But no, that has not happened yet. So, the first season, which was 24 chapters. Yeah, 24 chapters. Excuse me, 24 episodes. Here's how many episodes were actually adapted from the manga. The first 6 were 13 to 15. And that's it. Season 2, complete filler. Season 3, Book of Circus. This one, all but the opening episode is, well, the opening episode itself is part of the circus arc, but it's not adapted from any of the chapters. You're like, really? Yeah, really. It is 100% completely true. Public School arc is, in a way, the second official story arc, well, after the Book of Murder, to have, this actually is the previous season of the show, this is interesting, where it's the first season of the anime, where from start to finish, they adapted the whole thing, and they never missed a chapter. They adapted the whole thing. And it's kind of the same thing with this arc. Oh yeah, definitely. It is the same thing with this arc. So only 3 times in the history of this anime where they adapt the whole thing. Okay, so just remember the Hopkins thing. I should continue that. It's going for quite a while. I'm sorry for so long. I love talking about the series. So then Sully's taken upstairs to be dressed, and of course, like, oh, can you look at? And of course, then Nina mentions, oh, grammar for singers. That's set up for the very next arc of this series, which good of this one to set up 2 arcs, which could potentially be adapted, which I've not heard anything about if they have doing a season for this yet. So then, of course, Wolfham gets measurements too, and then Scylla comes down. Nice dress! Except for some reason, she has had to cut her hair. Her long hair that she's had since her debut, like the first episode. And then they go to credits, and then post-credits, we actually see Elizabeth Matherfield, Cecile's fiance, make her first appearance this season in a very short clip, very short little scene post-credits that is complete anime original, which is not from the manga. Nope. Never was. Don't know the reason for that. But my recommendation for the studio who makes a series, do this. Please do a special episode where you adapt all those missing chapters, all these chapters for these arcs that were skipped. Like, if you're curious, out of the 100 and, well, I say by the end of the season, up to 108, how many chapters overall did the anime skip? Five? 14. Excuse me. 37, 66, and that's it. Only 4 chapters they skipped. That can make a good, like, standalone, like a series of standalone episodes right there. Where they do it, I don't know. It depends on what the committee wants to do with the series. Okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it for the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up, I left my area convention party to join my former students explore dungeon depths. Okay, next video. Bye.